Hello, everyone. My name is Benj Klare. I'm joined by Rod Dunlap, and you're
What's
watching
up?
Anti-Porn Guys Live. Second week in a row here. The first was on Parents, Kids, and the Internet. You can find that on the Argentize. He's a Cincinnati's YouTube channel. And again, it's titled The Anti-Porn Guys Live, Parents, Kids, and the Internet. Tonight, I'm excited to bring you, or I guess this afternoon, we're excited to bring you our second week, which is entitled The Anti-Porn Guys Live, Counseling. Do I really need it to heal? So today, we're going to talk all about counseling. Rob, why don't you go and introduce yourself again for those joining us for the first time, and I'll do so after you.
Cool. So my name is Rod Dunlap, and I've been at the Archdiocese for 3.5 years now. I used to do sports ministry for the Archdiocese, and now I am more involved in the marriage prep, and also will be becoming the future anti-porn. I don't know, Benj, what was your title? I don't even know.
It's
I'm taking
associate
Benj's spot.
director in the Office for Marriage and Family Life,
Yeah,
but coordinator of the Anti-Pornography Initiative. Yeah.
there you go. So I am going to be doing that, as well as continuing to help with our Genesis program, and which is our marriage prep program, helping with those marriage retreats, and also a little bit of everything. But on the side, I'm also in my final year of getting my master's in marriage and family therapy. So this idea of counseling and therapy is important to me. And we talked about it, and we're like, well, we really should talk about this topic, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there as far as, do I need therapy? When do I go? Who do I go to? These kind of things. And so today, Benj and I were like, let's just do this and knock it out. So I'm
Let's
ready.
just do it.
Just do
We're
it,
knocking it
man. Come
out.
on,
Yeah, and,
do
and
it.
Rod had said my title a little bit, but I'm the associate director in the Office for Marriage and Family Life, and my principal duty is coordinating the Anti-Pornography Initiative, which in this time of pandemic, in some part, looks like this video series. And just to give you a little bit of the why behind this video series, so it's called the Anti-Porn Guys, and that's because we're looking at the issue of pornography, but this whole week is just addressing really mental health, healing. Next week, we have a great session on porn and spirituality. And by that, we mean how pornography and the mental illness that is pornography affect our spirituality. So this session is really going to be using pornography and disordered sexuality as a case example, but you can really zoom out and apply this to anything. So these questions about counseling, we're going to use the case example of someone struggling with pornography, but we're going to talk about just the larger issue of mental health. So I think might as well jump in, get started here. The first question I thought was interesting was particular to Rod, who's getting who's working on, becoming a professional counselor himself, of why you got into counseling, Rod. Obviously, that's a life statement on its importance. So
Yeah. So I was working. I was working as a youth minister, and I had been told, but for years, from people that listening was one of my better qualities. I don't know if that's true or not, but sometimes people know us better than we know ourselves. So my wife was finally like, you gotta dive in. You just gotta do it. You gotta start doing it. And I prayed about it and thought about it more. And it's really interesting. So as a youth minister, your mind's always kind of swirling and thinking about, evangelization, and how are we making these kids, more better disciples of Christ and things like that. And I started to the Lord really opened some paths in my mind and showed me that there's a lot of people out there who are struggling, or who have wounds, or who just have all these barriers that exist in their lives, um, which are which can be a prevention from them encountering the Lord in some way. Okay. And so when I started to think more of that, I really could see myself, being a therapist someday, and really helping people kind of overcome these barriers. But I think when the Lord shined that light on, yeah, these people need these barriers removed so that they really can have a true encounter with me. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to, you know, I basically I said yes, I want to do that. I want to help people um, really overcome whatever mental health issues they're dealing with, so that they can be evangelized and they can have this openness in their heart to an encounter with the Lord. So that's why I initially got into it 4 years ago in June. Um, so I've been doing this. I've just been taking like one class at a time. So that's why it's taken me a while, but I was in no hurry. And but here we are 4 years later, and man, I'm looking forward to it. So right now I actually am doing my practicum, which means I'm doing therapy. I have a caseload of clients that I work with on a weekly basis. So getting great experience, learning more about the whole mental health profession. So it's been really great. And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I dove in, and I really felt called by the Lord to do so. And here we are. So
Yeah, that's great. Wow, what a great witness. I think it's so true. And, when you had said there are people out there with barriers, those barriers that are, walls preventing them from being vulnerable and open with their loved ones, with their spouse, and with our Lord. And I just want to just say from the outset that that's really everyone. And I know you're comfortable with me sharing this, Rod, and I just want to share it to the larger audience. Rod and I have both attended licensed professional counseling. We've both been to counselors, so we know what it's like sitting there. Now, Rod sees what it's like from the other end, counseling other individuals. So we're people, and my whole life for these past 2 years working in this position has been trying to connect people with healing opportunities, one of those being counseling.
mhm,
So, our whole world is how do we help people heal so that they
mhm.
can live a fuller life? So this
Yeah.
leads to the second question I want to ask, which is, what do you see now being on both sides of the chair, if you will, as the benefit of counseling? What's the benefit? Why
Well,
counseling?
I think the benefit is there's a lot of benefits, but the end goal obviously is that when a person comes into counseling or for therapy, um, they are properly diagnosed, and so that there is something for the therapist to really address. And the goal is that however long the therapy is going to last with an individual, that the goal is that that barrier or issue or problem or whatever you want to call it is no longer there after X number of weeks or months or however long it takes. So I think the goal of therapy is that. And it's been, when I began going roughly attending myself. Um, it's been almost 5 years, I think, um, that I've been going. Used to be weekly, then it was then it was bi-monthly, um, and now it's kind of like once every like 3 or 4 months or something. But it's very good. I've been with the same therapist, and it's just been very helpful. It's very helpful for on that side, for as a client, to be able to like just open up and share freely just what's in my heart, right? And to not have people, or to not feel like there's anyone, like I'm not afraid to share it. I'm very vulnerable, very open. But on the flip side, as from the therapist side, it's also great to be able to have people come in to see me, and for me to be that way with them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
So those are some of the good things. Let me ask you, Benj. We know that mental health is such a big issue in our world today. Um, why do you and we know we're learning more and more about it, and we're learning more and more people have mental health issues or disorders, or something something in them that does need to be addressed, but people are very hesitant on doing it, like going to see a therapist or getting professional help. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm just going to make a bold claim right now and just state this. And I think a lot of people are going to say that's not true, but I think it is true. Everybody has a mental health problem. I 100% believe that and agree with, and here's why. It comes down to culture. And I can really speak just to my work, trying to get people to counseling. So many people reach out to me and then they say, like, I'll do whatever it takes. And I recommend a few different things. And then I never really hear from them. And if I do, I say, hey, did you ever end up doing this, that, or counseling? If they ever do anything, it's almost never counseling, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost never counseling. And I think the reason is it comes down to culture and stigma. There's a huge stigma behind counseling and the idea that if you go, you've got some big brain problem, something's really deeply wrong. Counseling's really only acceptable when an adult goes through a major trauma, maybe like a death. And even then, it's like looked down upon a little bit because, other people got through their spouse's death without going to counseling. That person, they can't deal with that in the right way. And there's a little bit of that talk that goes on. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And the reason I'll say I think everyone has a problem is I think there's one great example that I've used, and I go back to it time and time again, and that is almost every year of our life we have a physical checkup, you know, and that's not weird. You go to the
Hmm.
doctor.
Yeah.
Why? Because tumors can grow and develop,
Hmm.
benign or cancerous, and you just want to
Yeah.
make sure because your back could be growing a little bit out of alignment, and so it
Hmm.
needs to be aware of that and adjusted. We go to the dentist. Why? Because we have a cavity? No, but because we need to just check up and make sure we're keeping routine hygiene. Well,
Yeah.
we have this culture that focuses so much on the physical, and that's not weird. If you have a broken arm, nobody looks at you and thinks, wow, that person's got a real issue. But yet, many of us have gone 25, 30, 40 years of our life without any person who's studied the process of healthy human mental behavior analyzing us and saying, hey, you know what? I think you've gone a little bit awry here. I think things are a little bit askew. And to finish out the analogy, all of us have in our head, you know what? I could probably eat a little bit better. I could probably work out a little bit more. I could probably reach out to family a little bit more. Well, in the same sense, and your doctor helps guide you in the healthy ways and they make sure nothing's going awry. In the same sense, we could honestly all have a little bit better way of dealing with stress. We could have a better way of coping with the difficulties of life. We could have a better way of talking to ourselves, a better mental behavior of dealing with our sins and mess ups and failures and traumas of the past. And so, a counselor, I really want people to see that while there's a huge stigma and cultural reason not to go, we need to start viewing it as going to like your primary care physician just to get a mental checkup. And these people are just going to analyze you and tell you, hey, if there's something seriously wrong, which is great because then you can get better and have a fuller life, or you know what, you're very healthy, but I would be watchful about these things, and that's only helpful. So that's a little bit of why I think people are hesitant, and why my answer to that would be. Now, Rod, I don't know if you have any comments on that, but I'll ask you this next question, and feel free to make comments as well. So we're talking about counseling and the importance of counseling, but I think a lot of people are going to answer back, well, I have my friends, my family, my faith for that. So I kind of want to ask you, as a licensed professional counselor trainee, what do you see as the role of spirituality, family, friends, the community, and counseling? Like, what are the different roles there in someone's life and healing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to just comment on when your answer there, and I think you're spot on. Is in our society we don't give mental health enough um, importance, level of importance. I don't think. And, it was great because John Paul II really, in his whole theology of the body, really talked about the importance of body, mind, and soul, and like how all three of those like work together as one. So we're not just a spirit, and we're not just this physical body, but like our minds are a huge part of all this as well. And we just live, it's just so interesting. We live in this world where as a society we say, oh, you go get counseling, you go get mental health help, well, there's something wrong with you. You're crazy. And it's like, like you said, if that's the case, then there's something wrong with all of us. We're all crazy then. So um I've never thought about that idea of like going like, to get a physical checkup, but that's a good analogy. Because that's what it is. It's like, we need to make sure our mental health is there. And I think what's interesting, Benj, is that just this experience of where we're at right now in our society with the whole coronavirus and being quarantined has really shed this huge light on the need for mental health, addressing our
Oh yeah.
mental health issues. Um, the demand on therapists and counselors is going through the roof because this whole quarantine thing has isolated people, has kept them physically away from other people. In my mind, as a therapist, we were only addressing the physical aspect of this whole disease, but it's causing all of these other problems as well. I just read an article on USA Today this morning that was all about how the suicide rate's going up, because of like, we didn't think about all of these other components of this, but
Right.
that our society just was thinking about the physical component of acquiring this virus. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much, but I just kind of wanted to use that as an example of, even like right now, this day, we're still focused on just the physical aspect.
Yeah.
So you asked me like,
The role
uh,
of community and faith and counseling. Where does that all fit in? Why
yeah,
do I need to go to a counselor? Why would I need to go there? How does my faith fit into that family? I know that's a huge question.
sure.
We only have about a little less than 10 minutes left, but
Okay. So, basically, typically like when we have an issue or a problem, and it could be a physical thing or a mental thing or an emotional thing. The first thing we normally go to, we talk to our friends. If we have good friends, we can talk to our friends about it. Maybe, hey, I'm feeling like this, or I've noticed I've been feeling really depressed lately, or I'm feeling really down, or whatever, and you're able to connect with your friends. Usually that could help you feel a little bit better, but it's not going to be the be all end all. Like if you are really feeling down about something, you got to really figure out what that might be. If you're really struggling with like we talked about earlier, like with porn, like you will go to your priest, go to confession, go and talk to them. Make sure that if you are struggling with something that is um, causing you to commit sin, such as viewing pornography, or maybe you find yourself drinking a little too much, um, you know, things like that. Like, yeah, you want to go to confession. That's for us in our spiritual journey. We want to make sure like we're telling the Lord we're sorry. But the thing is, you go to confession, and it's okay. And I would recommend you to go to confession, talk to the priest, get your sins absolved. Your priest is going to hopefully accompany you and continue to hear your confessions, but the priest is not there. They're not designed to help you overcome your mental health issues. Okay. They are not qualified. And many of them, if not most of them, will tell you firsthand they are not qualified to help you overcome your depression, you know? And so what we're starting to see now is like and I've seen it just here in our archdiocese, which is great, is like the next step then is you'll see that priests and or consecrated are really referring people to go seek professional help, and that's why we have Catholic Charities here in Cincinnati, and they do a great job of providing therapy and counseling for people over there. But that's kind of the process that I see a lot of people taking, and that I would encourage people to take is like, and you want to make sure like your spiritual life is still part of all of this, because many times there's like a spiritual connection with our mental health issues, and we know that as believers in Christ, that he's the ultimate healer, right? He's the ultimate healer. He can heal however he wants to heal, but we know that he has people here on earth that are able to help other people find healing. So there's all sorts of different ways of finding healing, but just kind of, in short, that's in a nutshell, I should say, that is the process that I see, and that I can continue to encourage people to do.
Yeah, one thing I think that could be helpful is, again, using the analogy of physical health and a primary care physician or a specialist in that area. I think using that example, you could think, okay, why do you go to the doctor? Typically, you go to the doctor, one, for a routine checkup, right? That's important. And I know that's not really popular in the counseling world, but I would like to see that become a new tradition of our culture. Is like, just as we go to a primary care physician, maybe once you hit 13, you go to a counselor, once a year to just be honest and open and do a checkup. And they can just give you a little bit of an assessment. Obviously, they're not going to know everything about your life, but they could help you within an hour or 2 hours,
Hmm.
kind of see where you're at, and what you could maybe work on could be helpful.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing you go to a doctor for. The second is for any major trauma. For any
Hmm.
major trauma, right? You fall down, you get hit by a bus, you get hit by a car, you go to the doctor, right? Because even though on the outside maybe you look fine, you're feeling pain and you need to address this. Same way, I think this is where most people go to a counselor. There's a death. There's your primary care physician's talking about, maybe you have depression, maybe you experience a lot of anxiety after an event, so there's a big trauma. But the third one I want to talk about, is I think this is the most important one, and this is probably what most people fall under, is why you would go to the doctor, is if you have um, persistent pain, right? So if you always have a pain under your chest, you've looked online, you've taken some over the counter things, that would be analogous to, you've talked to your friends, you've talked to your
Hmm.
family, and yet you still kind of have the problem. Then you kind of take it up a notch, right? And maybe you're going to a priest, you're doing spiritual direction, trying to address this issue, and yet that pain doesn't go away. Then you would go to the doctor, right? After
Hmm.
you've taken some medicine, you've maybe stopped eating as fatty food or sugary food. Now you've reached out to your friends, your family, you've reached out to the priest, and you still experience this persistent pain. I'm still a little bit sad. The same activities in life that I once enjoyed, I no longer enjoy. I'm at my kids' game and I just don't feel happy. I just notice that I'm always feeling anxious. For whatever reason, I've been trying to beat out pornography for 2 years and I can't. So I would really encourage people who experience persistent, and by persistent, I mean probably anything over a month to 3 months. If you are experiencing something negative that you want to get rid of for a period of 1 to 3 months, and you've done some things, that's when you should go to a counselor.
Yeah, don't ignore the
Yeah,
symptoms. Don't, I think that's a big problem we have in our society, is we just ignore the systems, or we buck up and we fight through it. And it's like, that is not going to help you find the result that you're looking for. I think we just live in a society that comes from many years ago, where the mentality was, just suck
yeah,
it up and deal with it. And, well, you know what? We have found out, just as the years have gone by and the suicide rates continue to increase, sucking it up doesn't help. Sucking it up is not, it's not helping us get healthier mentally.
sure.
Like that does not work. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Benj. And just the last question is, what are the different opportunities here in Cincinnati that you know of for counseling?
Yeah, so I'll share, and then Rod, obviously, you're welcome to share as well. This will be our
Sure.
final question. Um, I think, first of all, in terms of counselors, we have, I would say, three great organizations that I would recommend off the top of my head. One is Ruah Woods. They're Catholic counselors. They're a great, great opportunity. If you haven't heard of them, it's Ruah, RUAH, woods.org. The second, and this is one that specifies, these are certified sexual addiction therapists. So they are specialized in sexual addiction, is Counseling Alliance. So that's counselingalliance.com. They're here in Cincinnati as well. And then the third I would say is Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities is a great opportunity for a more cost-effective way for people to encounter healing. And that's the third, but I will kind of give a nod to, if you go to psychology.com, or maybe it's psychologytoday.com, you can type in local counselors, and here in Cincinnati, and pretty much every counselor in Cincinnati, even the ones I've mentioned, and in Dayton, all the way up in the north will have a little profile on who they are, what they believe, what they do, and that can give you a good feel. Just like your primary care physician is someone you want to feel like you can trust. Same with the counselor. You may need to go to 2 or 3 counselors before you really feel like this is the one I want to go to. So, Ruah Woods Counseling Alliance, Catholic Charities, those are 3 organizations, and then psychologytoday.com has a great thing for you to see any and all counselors here in Cincinnati. Although there are some that I would not recommend on that site, but you'll know that from reading their description. They just have a different life view than you. And so you want to go to someone you're more comfortable with. I don't know, Rob, what you would add to that.
Yeah, I mean, there are sites on, and I'm not off the top of my head, I can't think of them, but there are sites you can look at online where you could actually type in that you're looking for a Catholic therapist if that's what you're looking for. But I will add this. I think that my perspective is this, and I've learned this just as being a therapist myself, and where I'm doing my practicum, it's a secular organization, but you can still even if the individual is not Catholic, we are trained as therapists to respect any and all faith beliefs. And we were, so if you go to a therapist who's not even Catholic, like, you could still get really good therapy there, and they could really help you with your problems, and they could,
Oh, yeah.
um, they will respect your faith, and you can talk to them just like you would, with a Catholic therapist. But so I just want to throw that out there. Like, it's not like you have to go, because if you're following the the format that Benj and I have talked about, you're still talking to your priest, and you're still going, and you're still involved in your parish, and you're still getting the spiritual guidance possibly that you need. So, it's not necessarily, but you know what you could also do if it really is that important to you that your therapist be Catholic. There are Catholic therapists who work in the secular field,
Right.
and you can actually go find them or ask for them specifically at a secular counseling organization. So that's also an option. You can just let them know, hey, my faith is important to me, and I would like to have someone. People who come to therapy all the time have preferences that they have, whether they want a male therapist or a female therapist. So counseling organizations are used to that. They're used to people coming. I don't know how many a various organization will have, but I will say this, that there is a pretty good sized number of Catholic therapists and counselors here in Ohio, in Cincinnati, that I was not aware of until I started down this road of getting my master's in marriage and family therapy. There's a lot more than I think that we realize, and so they're out there. It's just a matter of, like, where do you go, and who do you ask for, and if is it that important to you that it be a Catholic therapist. So these are all kind of thoughts that you really want to think about when you get to that point of, okay, I need professional help. What do I
Yeah.
do? And
Yeah.
I was, and just real quick, I will say
Go
this,
ahead.
like, you guys can contact Benj and I, and hopefully we can share our contact information in some way, and we could
Yeah.
we could help answer more questions, or direct you to where you can go for this.
Yeah,
So,
our contact information is super easy. It's our first initial last name at catholic.cincinnati.org. So it's B Clare at
and
catholic.cincinnati.org.
R Dunlap
And
at
yeah,
catholic.cincinnati.org.
feel free as well to go to a counselor, tell them you want to see if they're a good fit. They'll understand as well. And if they're not, go to another one. Last thing I want to say is hopefully this has been helpful. We appreciate you tuning in and being here. And if you're interested more on, this intersection between mental health and spirituality, we're going to be talking about that next week at this time, Thursday from 1:30 to 2 p.m., same place. And we're going to talk about that, using the case study of the mental health of crisis of addiction to pornography, but just the idea of mental health and spirituality. How do they work? How do they relate? What should our prayer lives look like? How does the healing work and cooperate? So we look forward to seeing you all next week. God
Yep.
bless.
All very important stuff. See you guys.
All right. See ya.